most of the time we think about stuff in our head, and I don't know if it's movies or whatnot, we always think about the worst case. And it's like, it's never as bad as in your head. Put yourself outside your comfort zone, understand how you felt, what you felt. Detach what your subconscious mind is telling you, or your fear-based mind, which is the fact that this could happen, that can happen, this could happen. Then you do it anyway, and then you can quieten that voice by knowing that the reality didn't match what that voice told you. That voice was there not to stop you, but to allow you or tell you to prepare more.
You're like a creator, teacher, entrepreneur. There's a lot of different parts to you, right? What kind of belongs to you more? Like, what would you own more so out of all those three?
I think the holistic umbrella that kind of encompasses it all is just, I like to create. So like things in my head, I like to bring to reality. And that's it. So with that being said, it's like if I have an idea for something or I learn something and I think it will benefit others, I figure out ways to bring it to reality.
Yeah. Do you remember the first time you had an idea and you put it into practice or brought it to life?
Everything that I think is valuable, I've always done. I'm unsure what the first thing is.
Or the most memorable one, if you think about it.
All right, so when I was in school, this is not really an idea per se, but it was something that I remember, and I don't think people might have understood the gravity of it at the time because it's just something that was a passing thing. So like when I was in school, I think I was in year 8, it was me and my best friend at the time. We went to, I think it was Church End Market, and we was infatuated a bit with technology, and I had the opportunity to buy a walkie-talkie, some old brick walkie-talkie, and I got it for £5 each. And then when I brought it to school the next day, a lot of people were just like curious about it because you can hear like police signals on it.
They were that strong?
Yeah, it's just back then you can hear police signals.
Yeah.
Not police like on the cars and stuff in the radios, because you can just basically attune it to different radio
frequencies.
That's the word. Anywho, I think with that being said, somebody said, can they buy my one? And I was like, yeah, no worries. I'll give it to you for £20. They bought it. And then like literally a light bulb moment hit in my head. I was like, right. Went back to the market anyway. I bought a few more and I just kept on doing that. Until I remember one time as a group, a lot of us in our school went to the Isle of Man, or was it Isle of Wight? One of the two as a group trip. And I just remember how maybe about 10 of us had walkie-talkies, something like that. I just remember thinking, it's a bit magical. It became a thing in my school. For those who remember, I don't know who's watching this, you remember that time. I remember even one of the older guys was like, oh, hey, you're the walkie-talkie guy. And he tried to get like walkie-talkie off me, but on a bully thing. He's like, oh, let me get that. I was like, yeah, you can have that. 'Cause it was the first yellow one. Remember I had 2. I was like, yeah, you can have. I remember what he looks like. He's a cool guy. Yeah, I ended up being cool and that. But yeah, that's, I think, one of my early memories that, you know, you can create things that add value to people, but also can financially impact your pocket. So that was cool.
Yeah, that was probably the first of many whilst in school, right?
It's probably the first thing that I remember because I was so young, and it was a lot of money. If you think about it, from £5, I think it was, if I remember correctly, it's either £5 for one or £5 for 2.
Yeah.
And I was selling that for 20 quid.
That's a lot.
So like the markup on that is a bit much, you know what I mean? I was kind of that big as a kid anyway, so it was more money than what people were making at that age.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I've had other instances of stuff like that through my school years. But it's the bigger ones that I remember. The smaller stuff, less so. That makes sense.
So whilst you were doing that, was it always on your mind to like add value to people's lives, but also create businesses?
I think maybe the business side of it was a bit accidental. It was like the value to others and the value to myself.
Where do you think that came from?
I think it's hard to understand where it came from because how my mind thinks is how I've always thought. It just maybe was less complicated when I was younger. But I just have this, I've always had a feeling that anything I want, I can do. Yeah, I can do. All I need is a bit of time to learn how to do it. But I'm always confident to know that I can do whatever. That makes sense?
Yeah.
So like, if I feel like I want to do something, I know that I can figure it out. Yeah. And maybe like a lack of fear and the position or the feeling that you can bounce back from any risk. And I can't remember not thinking that way.
Yeah.
So like, I'm telling you stuff I remember. I can tell you stuff that's failed. Like me and my boy trying to sell trainers. Like early, this is before trainers were a thing, like year 8, year 9. Going to Wembley Market, getting certain trainers and trying to flip those. I had an eBay shop since I was in like year 9 or year 10. Going back to year 2005, I think I launched my eBay shop.
Right.
And I pretty much sold everything you can imagine on there, from aqua watches. Remember anybody who knows about aqua watches? When we started selling cars, so like my first car flip was when I was 16. That was a mad story in itself, but we might get onto. But trying to do that through eBay, the initial sale, obviously it ended up being an auto trader. But just the feeling that you can just do stuff, if it fails, it's part of your memory, right? You just kind of laugh about it. And a lot of the L's that I've taken over the years has been, if we didn't laugh, we would have shed deep tears, basically.
Yeah.
So,
but I love that because you speak about confidence, and like to be a teenager, going from selling items for like £5-10 to selling cars, that's a big jump. And so you must have had some type of confidence in you like throughout that time, right?
is it confidence the word, or is it ability to know that you can build the confidence? Like you can figure it out as you go. So like, for example, with the car situation, right? It was me and my boy Hilal, like my best bud. One of his older guys had a Astra. Remember you didn't make me meet when I had this car, but I ended up buying the same car again as my first personal car. It was called an Astra Berton. It's like a coupe Astra.
What plate?
At this point, his one was a 04 or 54. No, his was a 52.
Okay, I know.
Along the lines, this is not my personal car. But anywho, so with this car, this guy crashed it, but he crashed it into the pole, front and back. At this point, he took it to the mechanic, and mechanic was like, yo, there's nothing we can do with this car, right? It's a dead horse. And then my boy calls me, he's like, look, his friend has crashed his car. This might be an opportunity for us. Do you want to buy it? So, cut long story short, we bought it for £250. Yeah.
Yeah.
Bear in mind, this car is probably worth not brand new, but fixed around 4K.
Wow.
Yeah, but the car, if I show you pictures, but the car was
Gone.
We had 3 mechanics come to look at it, and 2 of them just said, yeah, forget about it, break it down and sell the parts. Then one guy was like, yeah, I'll fix it. Do you know what I mean? And then to actually make the money, because we didn't have the money to fix it, I remember doing crazy stuff. Like I was working in Wembley Stadium, and I was 15, so I was using my brother's N9 number to work. I told you I was always bigger for my age. Work, and just raising the money to actually fix it. And with cars, anyone who sold cars, every time there's a new problem. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Car long story short, yeah, we sold a car. I think I personally made like 1,500 profit or something like that, or 1,400 profit.
That's a lot of money at 15. But
It was a lot. I have the picture of me on the bus. It's a separate story, but I remember like being so gassed on the bus. I was talking to someone on the bus, or trying to talk to someone on the bus, and I kind of like whipped it out on some G thing. You know what I mean? And then as I whipped it out, now she's like, oh, wow, number exchange, whatnot. And then after she blocked me, she was like, oh, she texted me, she's like, oh, I can't talk to guys like you. I was just like, mate, this is completely legit. You know what I mean, but the perception of it, because obviously young age and cash, but yeah, that's kind of an example of different things that I guess to some extent it builds your confidence. So like anybody who knew me from back then, that's kind of how my mind was. Like I had business plans, and I've had designs for things that I didn't end up doing, but even the whole posting it to yourself to try and copyright it, doing all that, do you know what I mean? Just to, I don't know. I've had a weird perception of life since young. And the only thing that through introspection I can think kind of aided that was when I was younger, I lived in Nigeria for a bit, right? I think from the age of like 7 to 11, give or take. Nigeria's an interesting place, especially if you were born here. And like how I was when I was younger, I spoke less. Remember how I was at uni, right?
Yeah.
I wasn't much of a speaker. I was very observant. Not because I'm shy, I just didn't speak as much. And I've always sort of been like that. Anywho, one of my mates, like my good friend, when I was like 7, like I still have a scar of us, like we're playing out together, and I kind of hit a nail. He drowned in a well, right?
And died.
Yeah, R.I.P. it's not a sad, it's a sad story, of course, but the reason I bring it up is that's my first insight or my first look to the fact that to definite, do you know what I mean? And I think obviously that takes you in two directions, but for me, it kind of took me in a direction like, you know, like what have you kind of got to lose? Yeah. You know, it's not something I thought about immediately, but it probably planted that seed in me, if that makes sense. Because you have to kind of look back sometimes to understand how you got to think how you think, or how you thought, in a sense. And I think that's one of the aspects. So perhaps it's like, what have you really got to lose? Everything is so like fickle to some extent. Do you know what I mean?
I totally agree with you. It's like death is one of those subjects that I don't know, like I used to shy away from it sometimes, because even little things like the thought of eternity, I remember being 14 and thinking about eternity, it used to scare the hell out of me, because it's like, you go to school, you come home, but eternity is like forever and ever and ever. Forever, ever. Yeah. And like the fact of death being so final, but what you're saying is, it rings true in the sense that like, you've got one life, you've got to live it to the best of your ability and live it for yourself rather than what other people advise you to do. But sometimes it can be quite difficult. When I think of like us in uni, so we had our business doing events, and I always laugh when I look back at that time, because I was doing that business and I was doing it in a sense of to get a better grad job, which in hindsight doesn't make any sense. Really and truly, if you're doing a business at uni, the aim should be to continue doing business straight away. But I guess for you, it was a little bit different, because you had a grad job offer and you was like, nah, I'm gonna do my own thing.
Yeah. So
was that one life mentality kind of influencing that?
I think it was a very difficult decision. So it wasn't like it was as clear cut, right, as to like which direction to go down. But it is a case that everything before that whole one life thing, and also just being about more than myself, I thought about it as like, look, if I go down X route, anything I do benefits me. But if I go down this other route, which is more like creating, it potentially will benefit others. And I'll get, based on how we grew up, you form what you think are very close bonds because of the lengths you're willing to go for one another. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, the whole mindset and thought of like, what can I do that it impacts people more than me is what made the decision easier. But I'm an optimistic realist. I wouldn't go into something without understanding the real nature of it. Yeah. So I knew I had a lot of difficult conversations with myself before I turned down the placement. Like, I think we spoke about it, but stuff like, you know, over the course of the next 10 years, which is what I believe it takes for you to actually make an impact, you know, all your friends at this point would have had promotions from grad scheme. I don't know, you're getting to mid, you're getting to senior, and your business can not do anything for 10 years. And then maybe if you're lucky in 11th year, it takes off. Yeah. But there's a mental side of that progress, especially, you know, subconsciously, you always, people are comparing different levels of progress in life compared to your age. Yeah. And it's not for the faint-hearted. Yeah. So being aware of what that ending could look like, I was like, you know what, yeah, let's just take that risk and, you know what I mean?
What was that like? Because, yeah, I can only imagine because obviously I went the grad scheme route and we're still dabbling in like businesses here and there, but I still had the safety net of saying, okay, I've still got a job, I've still got ways to make money or go up the career ladder. Like I haven't really chosen a path, as it were. But then for you, when you took the leap, because you had an idea already, right? That you was working on. What was it? Scoping?
I had a direction.
What was the direction?
Just something health and wellness related. Yeah. You know, that was it.
So talk me through like how the process went for you in the sense of like narrowing down on that type of idea, how you worked on it, like where it was going to kind of thing. And even what motivated you to do that business in the first place?
I think it was less so about like narrowing the idea, because I didn't really narrow the idea. So like, I'll give you an example. When I was working with Start Tech, right, people will come to me with an idea, here's what they want to do, can you help me develop it? And sometimes your idea is terrible, is what I want to say to them. You shouldn't do this. Like 6 people before you have told me the exact same thing. But what you realize is that it isn't the initial idea that takes you to where you want to get to. Sometimes starting that idea leads you to have conversation with certain people where you understand there's other ideas or there's other ways to execute. So I guess to come back to your point, it wasn't that I narrowed, it was the fact that I just got started, and you just figure out as you go along. You make the mistakes in the book, and those mistakes allow you to see things differently and iterate, essentially.
Yeah. What kind of mistakes were you talking about?
Mistakes, stuff like bad hires. So like when you're in the game of like trying to build, it's lonely.
Yeah.
Right? So sometimes when people seem like they're interested in your helping your dream by joining your company, the first person that says yes, you're like, yes. But it doesn't necessarily mean that first person is the right person to help you build it. So I've had like tech people that have came on board who have ultimately wasted my time.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And it's not their fault, it's my fault for not seeing the signs from the beginning, but you're blinded by the fact that your dream feels realer because someone else is trying to get on board it.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's that. That's one of the mistakes. And mistakes like, I don't know if you read like the Lean Startup, about, validating your ideas. Sometimes you want to build all singing, all dancing solutions, but, that's not potentially what leads to your growth. It's about honing in and validating each of your assumptions and then adding money to it. What people do otherwise is build everything, and it's very expensive to build everything. Like the first thing I tried to launch, I think I lost like 15K on website development and didn't even actually launch. So
that feeling of when the idea is quite precious, and you don't want anything to disrupt it, because even with the higher stuff, like when I've hired people in the past, that feeling of in fact when we've done it for Herbie even, it's like that feeling of you're good, I don't want to lose you, so you're playing not to lose rather than playing to win. And the trade-off of like time of like, okay, do I need to go out through this whole process trying to find someone, or do I take a gamble on this person, maybe they will do it. It's hard, and I think especially in tech is even worse, because there's all these cowboys that will promise you the world, that will build you stuff, and then like I hear stories of when you give someone a spec, they'll build it, and you come back to them and say, where's the X to close the screen? They'll say, oh, you didn't tell me to do that. And that kind of they're taking advantage of you, essentially.
Yeah, they're not idiots. Everyone knows what they're doing. I used to call them leeches.
Yeah.
Like leeches is basically someone who latches onto you, obviously he's trying to suck your blood, but you're basically preying on people's dreams in a sense. Like I've had it all, in a sense. I've had people say, hey, I'll help you I'll help you do pitches, like I'll get you pitch ready.
Yeah.
So obviously when you're raising investment, but that in itself isn't really what you need, because you can be the worst pitcher and have the best idea and know how to deliver it and you're fine.
Yeah.
But why would you want 5 bills for you to hear me speak?
Yeah.
What's your credentials?
Yeah.
I've had that. But it's understandable because everyone's got to eat in it.
It's true. It's true. It's true.
What I mean? Yeah.
And then looking back, because the idea at the time, cause it was called Dongu, do not give up.
Yeah.
And then what was the idea? What was the platform again?
So it was a platform that connected people or busy individuals with coaches and personal trainers through a tech solution, which essentially is like WhatsApp today. Not WhatsApp. It's basically like FaceTime today, and also MyFitnessPal today. But MyFitnessPal, in terms of like the food side, the people who see what you post as coaches. So it's basically reinventing or changing what the personal trainer or coach model is from per hour to per week. So you can put 1 hour in as a coach, make your 50 quid or whatnot, but your client will get 4 hours or X amount, multiples, more benefits than you put in, because they have something to guide them each day. Does that make sense?
It does.
Yeah.
Ahead of its time, man. Because there's so many of those platforms now that exist where...
Yeah, somebody started after me. They sold to, what's it called? What did they sell to? I can't remember, but they made some good money. It's not, obviously, ideas are a dime a dozen. Do you know what I mean? It's not the idea, it's the execution. It's that actually makes it. Somebody somewhere thought to themselves, I'm going to cut down trees and make toilet paper. they did it right for themselves, you know what I mean? And obviously now it's normal, but at the time, people must think this person's crazy. Just go wash like normal people, do you know what I mean? Or use a leaf. Here we are.
Got to innovate somehow.
Yeah, that's what it's about.
You are like, if I think of my friendship group, like you're the one that I would say is like innovator, because like I said, you can come up with the ideas that not everyone is thinking of at the time. And so when you're building this business and you're getting like, I'm not saying knockbacks, but it's like you're finding your challenges, did you still have that innovative mindset and apply it in different areas as well? So were you still being creative? Were you still like what was you doing to keep yourself going?
Yeah, I think, for sure. Different campaigns that we've done, different ways that, I'll tell you an example. When we somewhat pivoted to start to start targeting companies, how we used to get leads, right, in itself was, I think, looking back, I don't even know who I was. So here's the idea. We had, our logo was like orange and green, right? And I was like, emails don't work, because we were doing emails. We automated our email send outs. We done a lot of cold calling to actually close deals, right? But this was the most effective, right? I would go to the market, the main market in Old New Street, Old
Convent Street.
It's a whole street. It's a wholesale market. We've been to it before.
New Spitalfields.
Yeah, New Spitalfields. I go to that market. I get tangerines and I get green apples, and I get these baskets, which at that point I think were £4 £4, right? I literally fill it up with oranges. I'd fill it up with tangerines, and I'll write a note. And I'm like, hey, I like your company. I run X, Y, and Z. We want to work with you. Bloody, 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 blah. Put it in the thing. This how I got their names and stuff is I used to have like a scraper who'd scrape like all the HR directors and stuff for the target companies that I want to target. And then in central London, I'll just go. I literally, with baskets, I'll go to the office, I'll knock on the door, whoever, speak to the receptionist, I say, I've got a meeting with X, Y, and Z. Most of the time, I say like 8%. Yeah, I'll just go straight up. And I'm in the lift, my heart's going boom, boom, boom. Like proper nervous, right? Because she don't know. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And in hindsight, like when you're younger, you look younger than you think you do.
Yeah.
So they must have think, who the hell is this kid? If you think about it. Yeah. So anyway, they would come out, I'll give them my little 30-second spiel, give them the basket, and like 100% reply rate. Not a success, but they'll probably message me back and say, hey, thank you so much for the fruits, blah, 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 it's not the right time, maybe contact me in 6 months. But generally speaking, the success rate in terms of who we onboarded was insane in terms of return on investment, because that might have cost me like £4. And if you're signing up companies, like for example, I can't remember the company, I think they're called TV something. One email they sent out, that was like 250 new signups, and I think our sign-up rate to actual premium conversion was pretty high. This was not small. It just basically that sort of ways of innovating is what I'm talking about. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? But where the company ended up going was because we wanted to basically integrate with wearable tech. We started building something that just took too long to build, and I think by the end of it, the money was gone.
Yeah. How did that feel?
On to the next, innit? I don't remember having regrets like that. It's just like how my mind works is where I am now is where I am. Yeah. If like you can't look too much in the past, you can learn from it. Where I am now is where I am, so you just deal with whatever cards are in front of you.
So becoming a creator on YouTube, what were you like focused on to begin with?
I just like teaching and just like educating. I started on doing gym videos and then started talking a lot about health, but I think health has just always been a passion since I discovered it, right? So back when 2011, I used to have like a faceless Twitter account called the Dungle Book, just sharing different tips and health information to people. And on YouTube, basically similar thing. So like recording some of the events that we used to do, just different tips, really. Yeah. And then vlogs. I really tried a lot of different kind of contents. I've deleted most of the videos now, but the videos I deleted were about 150. I didn't delete them, I hid them.
Why'd you hide them?
So if you want to grow in a social sphere, in my personal opinion, variety is not always the way forward. So like, especially in your early days, it's not about doing a vlog on a Monday, doing a sit down talking to the camera on a Tuesday. And the reason why people do that is because they look at the big people and that's what they do. But for you to understand growth, you have to look at what people did when they were growing. And it's most likely that they were doing very similar kinds of content, just recycled differently. It was less about being creative, more about being predictable. You might see shocking titles, but the format, whether they'll sit into the camera, people that vlogged. Yeah. And those channels tend to grow the most because if you think about YouTube, it's basically a place to replace TV.
Yeah.
And on TV, when you watch your news, it's a similar format. Same time each week, whatever, similar format. When you watch different EastEnders, you kind of know what to expect, same format. So the reason I hid it is because I basically niched down into herbs, right? Because I've always been passionate about herbs since, as you know, since uni. So once I did that, if you want people to come to your channel, how it works, they'll come to your channel, see a video. No, they'll see a video, then from the video, go to your channel. As they're scrolling through your channel, if it's a lot of varied content, sometimes it might be less likely to subscribe. So once I niched down, I think I went from like 10,000 to like 40 in a very short space of time, and it took me forever to get to 10.
Wow. Wow. Yeah, I never thought of
Free
that.
Free keys.
Yeah, I never thought of that niche down thing, especially because you're 100% right. When I see these like new YouTubers, they have so much variety, and I think even influencers as well. Like, there's so many different aspects to them. I feel like because of accessibility, people feel, well, influencers or creators might feel that they need to show all sides of themselves, but really it can just be one part in one format.
People, you need to grow with people, you know.
Yeah.
Like, you can. Let me backtrack on that slightly. How you understand your niche is by understanding which video grew the fastest. So let's say initially you're meant to go a bit varied, right? Do your vlog, do your this, do your that, right? And then one of your videos might hit 1,000 views in a day, whereas everything else hit 1,000 views in 4 days. You found your niche.
As simple as that.
From that video, hammer down. One thing we try to do is like, it's demand, supply and demand. So you supply content and hope that people demand it. Whereas I think the right way to do it is demand and supply, right? What do people actually want? So that is a signal that people want that kind of content. So just hammer down on that content until it stops working and then go back to the drawing board doing the same thing. That's basically it. If I was passionate about YouTube now, I would follow that exact same formula and I'll just keep going.
Yeah. Because what was your thing that took off the quickest then?
I just had a herb video that did well.
Which one was it?
I can't remember where. I think it was, I was sitting in my car, I think, and I was talking about herbs for fitness or something. You get me, did numbers. But I didn't listen to my own advice because I had to figure this out later. So I was still trying to do, I think I was in Thailand at that point. I did a few vlog videos. The videos did not bang. Then in Thailand, I did one video on, I think, testosterone, herbs for testosterone or something like that. Took off again, the same. Cool, went back, hit the other Thailand video. I was like, all right, cool, here's what we're doing now. Do you know what I mean? And then I think at that time I was already writing my herb book anyway. So it kind of made sense that if I got a product, I'm gonna have content related to that product.
Yeah, yeah. So let's take a step back. Because you said now you started writing your herb book, but by that point you've already written 4 books already?
4. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
But it wasn't, so how it worked was, obviously when I started YouTube, the second time I was talking a lot about plant-based wellness because obviously by this point I was probably like plant-based for like 5 years, give or take. And I had how it used to work. I mean, backtrack on Twitter when people used to ask me questions about different things. I used to send them like an article that I'd written. Yeah. So either I wrote it for them or had written it previously, right? Somebody wants to know, what recipes do you eat? Because you're still like quite muscular. I was like, here's a recipe that I've written before. So I was like, I had the idea. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna put all of this into a book and just fill in the gaps, which was the vegan bodybuilding or plant-based bodybuilding guide that I put out initially, and I was selling that on like a website called Fiverr, and I was basically selling it through my website as well. So that was number one. So it's kind of intentional, unintentional, right? But number two, I was like, look, I want to market number one because, in backtrack, number one did well. Like I was selling it for $5.99. I sold a good amount, right? Number one did well, and I used to have like upsells, like plans and stuff. But it wasn't, I did it in Word, Microsoft Word. You know me, like start, if it does well, invest more. So I did it properly. I redesigned it. I wrote like 4 more chapters. I took professional pictures, blah, 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 blah. And then at this point, I'm learning Facebook ads because, you know, we got to eat, right?
Yeah.
So what I did, I was like, what can I give away for people as like a lead magnet? So I was like, I'm going to write another book that people ask me about all the time called Nutrition. It was like a nutrition guide. How do you make sure you're not deficient, blah, 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 blah. So I wrote that. And then from that, I think I got like 5,000 emails and then maybe less sales. So I started thinking, people want this book more than the other one. So obviously, like, I just improved on that. And then when I was obviously working with Start Tech, I wrote a book for Start Tech, which was a very small book that I don't think anybody read, but it's brilliant, which was meant to be a free lead magnet as well. And then number 4 was because I redid the others. So it's like additions as opposed to like, now it is 5 that actually, but at that point it's because I redid some books and might have changed the name. That makes sense.
That makes sense. You mentioned a lot about like lead magnets, like upsells.
Yeah.
And for me, like I had to learn all that stuff, like literally just when we started Herbie, like understanding how to sell online. How did you learn how to sell online? Because you probably would have had to start that from early, like 2013. Like, where did you even start from?
I can't remember.
Yeah, because now there's all these gurus that are selling
now
stuff.
there's gurus.
Yeah.
I can't remember, but it worked. Like, if I went back, I would have probably had like a high ticket item for like 200 quid or something. Because really and truly, the books were like £15, £8. It was still low ticket. But there was a lot less restrictions than people have now. So a lot of like the old school ads, Facebook millionaires and stuff, where during this period, I remember I had this ad I've spoken about, had about 5,000 likes.
That's crazy.
So just imagine the amount of engagement. You know, that's until Facebook blocked my account. Ops. I don't know why. Oh no, I don't know why they blocked it.
Yeah.
Anywho, so all my pixels and
Gone.
God broke my heart. It didn't actually break my heart, but you get the sentiment. But anywho, so how did I learn? It's probably just YouTube, and one of my personality traits is like anything I do, I just want to be good at. So like, I'm less passionate now, but at those points, I really would get engrossed in trying to understand the inner workings of it. And I don't know anybody else doing ads like I was doing it then. I was doing like £1,000 a month, give or take. Doesn't sound like a lot for the big Facebook dogs, but
back then,
that's
the cost of it was
a lot of money, in my opinion, anyway. So
you mentioned a lot about passion. Where's your passion gone?
I'm just less focused on pouring out. I'm also pouring in at the moment.
Explain.
So like most of the things I've done as my track record has always had one theme behind it, and that's kind of like helping people. Pretty much everything I've done, it's like helping people and facilitating relationships in terms of community. That's an outpouring, right? Because you're basically making money by helping people, in a sense. Where people who do that, it's the best way to live. I used to use the quote, like, make a change, then make a change. One of the changes is money, and one of the changes is changes in the world. And I think at this point in my life, I'm just a bit less passionate about change and helping people and stuff, and I'm more passionate about helping myself. It's a very different space than what I'm used to, because I've been how I've been all my life.
Yeah.
But less so. So that's why I post less. It's weird. So
yeah, especially because you would write like literal articles. Like, for example, the Cat's Claw one about inflammation. The amount of people ask me about inflammation, I say, okay, read this article that you made it, and it's something which you've literally just done off your own back, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Was there a particular trigger point that kind of wanted you to be a bit more like focused on your own growth, as it were?
Kind. Do you know what it is? Like, I know what my destiny is. I know where I'm getting, and I kind of know what I need to get there. And at certain points, you got to make certain sacrifices to enable you to get there. And by sacrifices, we live in a world where, you know, you have to somewhat play the game, and the game is fueled by finances, right? So if you're not at a level or even surpassing where you are in your head, people might not even listen to you, if you get what I mean. The guy right now who looks a certain way is more likely to get people to buy into his message than the guy, like, in my opinion, Bill Gates or whoever these guys at 20 and at 40 or whatever ages they are now are very similar, you know, in a sense that their mind is the same. Some of the knowledge they have the same, as their passion is the same. But at one point, probably nobody was listening to Jobs when he was like, I'm gonna, start a little computer thing in my basement. But if you want to learn how to like grow certain things, that's the energy that you should be tapping into. What was he on at that point in time? But at that point, you're less likely to be listened to, because you're more likely to be listened to when you've made it. Yeah, when you made it. It's just how the game goes, right? So that doesn't probably answer your question, but it gives an inkling as to the depth or what I'm thinking.
So it's like got to this stage, as it were, in terms of giving out the energy.
I'll give it out.
Bring it back in.
Yeah, let me just...
And then come back again later on.
Yeah, I might see you guys after I hit a few ends.
That's the destiny, yeah?
No, but also, I got to a point in the health space that I was like, I've given away everything I know. Like, obviously, there's continuous learning, but herbs, I've got a herb guide. I've got tons of book. I've got courses. Like, I've literally got 2 courses on one course on herbs, but this course is amazing, right? It gives, if you're trying to be like a small herbalist, it gives you everything you require. And on top of that, I've got a nutrition guide. I've got everything basically in the world. I've got over 100 videos. Like, every question anybody could ask me, it's like, if you just Googled my name and the question, it would pop up. So I kind of felt like I've given it all. I've done 10 years, I've done my bird. It's like, it's time to move on. Until I realized, you know what, there's one more chapter. And I was like, let me actually massage or like show that chapter to people. And then I'm out. God willing.
So when you look back at, say, the last 10 years and then back into that hard conversation that you had with yourself, was it the right decision?
I think it helped me become who I am today. I wouldn't say it's the right decision. Maybe I would have done things differently. I probably would have spent more time with other people's money instead of like having hard lessons of my own.
Yeah, facts. Those lessons of your own, you learn strong, but boy.
I had to learn. I remember like I had to borrow some money off my mate. Luckily, I've got good friends because I asked him for like 1,500. I was like, yo, let me borrow 1,500. He's like, yo, Paul, I've got 10 bags just sitting there that you can hold if you want. It's like, woof. Friends like that is probably why I'm a loner, because most people won't give you 500 quid. You know what I mean? So he just sent me 10 grand, and that helped with the next thing that I kind of got into. You know?
What's your perception on that though? Because not many people are happy to take money from friends.
Not many friends are willing to give it. I remember when I was starting Herbie. So I remember when we were starting Herbie, I had 2 cars, right? I had 2 cars, I was paying rent, like, not Herbie, sorry, when we were starting Magnus at uni. I don't know if you remember, we all put in like 300 quid in. And I don't think I had that 300 quid at that point because I can't remember what L I probably took the week before. So I remember calling a friend, I was like, yo, let me hold that, because I've made all my mates eat at this point. Like, no one who I grew up with can't say they never made money from me. It's like, it's only 300 quid, like we spend that. You know what I mean? Yeah, I don't think I got that money still. I don't think I got, it's not that I didn't get the money, it's the promises, like, yeah, that's calm, I got you. And then you don't hear back. So I use that to show the different like spectrums of people. Whereas someone else, I said, yo, 1,500. And they were like, yeah, I got 10K for you.
Because he probably sees more value in you than just like, though he believes in you to make even more from that 10K. So it must be that.
Don't know. It's just, sometimes there's not always a clear-cut reason behind it. But you just know people are more genuine than, I guess, other people, perhaps, I guess.
Yeah, no, fair.
Yeah.
So what are some of the current topics that you're quite interested in at the moment?
As my personality type, I like to read a lot. Right, I call it like modern day scholar. I read less now, but I was passionate about learning. So at the same time, I discovered like herbalism, I discovered like plant-based and all these things. This is before it became, like when I was screaming out plant-based, I didn't call it plant-based, I called it dungutarian, because I didn't know what plant-based was. So you're getting back to 11, you know. I remember I said dungutarian, I don't know about all that, you know what I mean, dungutarian. So the point I'm saying is, at this point, I wasn't just reading about health and herbs and stuff like that. You start learning about the body. You start learning about the inner workings of the body, right? And one part of the body that I guess is less explored, but because I'm passionate about history, I was reading about this part of it, which is stuff to do with like intimacy and stuff like that. So just passionate about somewhat learning the intricacies of that, because I guess a few things. One thing, as I said before, anything I do, I want to be good at. And 2, I'm just naturally a curious person. So that that was like, when I say Dungle book, which is what my page is called, the book aspect is basically showcasing the different parts of health. And I think human connection, intimacy and stuff like that is a part of it. So over the course of my YouTube journey, I've made a lot of videos on like, I don't know, issues with men, especially in performance anxiety and stuff like that. And I think the last chapter of Dungle book as a collective is just sharing more and diving a bit deeper into that before I sign up.
Yeah, fair. I don't think that's the final chapter though.
I'm done.
I don't think so.
Let's see.
I mean,
I told myself I'll come back as a flex account. Just
a flex account?
Yeah.
What's that? Oh.
Stun on these. Nah, I'm kidding.
So when you're doing the research, like in terms of intimacy or just general like body positiveness, what's been the most surprising thing that you've learned?
I don't think it's a surprising thing that I've learned. I think the surprising part of it is how much people don't know. I think that's like when I have conversations with people and I'm just like, because for me, Google's free. Like, I don't understand how people aren't using it.
Yeah.
You know, like I've had people who have like illnesses. They'll come, oh, Paul, I've got this issue, and I'll be like, oh, why? Oh, how did you get it? I don't know. You don't know.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So the point is, obviously not with all diseases, but there's certain things that if you Google it, you understand how you got to the predicament you're in. I think maybe Google is probably more risky of a thing now, but I guess you can go to sources, you can dive deep into different studies that help you understand certain things. But anywho, so the surprising parts of things is the amount of things people do not know. Yeah. And it makes some stuff that I say that sound very basic to other people sound mind-blowing to others.
Yeah.
You know.
Like what?
So, for example, like the average time of intimacy being like, for most people, like under 10 minutes. For some people, that's outstanding. It's like, what, 10 minutes? For other people, that's just a normal life. You know, like one in, I can't remember the exact stat, but you're talking about erectile issues or you're talking about premature, these issues, for one, are getting younger, as in people are going through these issues younger, infertility is going up. And on top of that, people don't understand the factors that contribute to this. So, yeah, I don't know if that answers your question, but
kind of does.
It's crazy outside.
Yeah, but it's funny though because it still sounds like you're giving value though, like in those, because those are issues that are, like you said, that are increasing on the rise. So it's like there's also a mission there as well, right?
Yeah, it's just, I think for me, like how I've seen myself on social media, and it took me a while to get here, right? Because it was like a battle initially, because my real life I think my real life is amazing, right? But my social media life is one-dimensional, where people won't understand how lit my real life is based on my social media life, right? And I used to think of how that potentially impacts my perception. But when I basically overcame that and realized, who cares? I didn't mind being somewhat like the fall guy to some extent. Like, I don't mind being a person to start the conversation because no matter what happens on socials, like my life is set. Do you know what I mean? So by that I mean, like when I first started talking about plant-based stuff. I say plant-based now, but at the time I was just talking about no meat.
Yeah.
As a black guy who's 21, who speaks how I speak, chain, I think I had my gold teeth at that point. It was just like side eye. Do you know what I'm saying? But now it's huge in a sense because I wouldn't say I started it, but it became more okay to have certain conversations after I did. In my personal opinion, this is probably how I see the world.
Yeah.
Right? And on top of that, like now that I'm talking about like the intimacy stuff, I think it makes it more okay because I've seen a lot of things after the fact that I've started, because obviously in my TikTok and stuff, did numbers. I've seen a lot of people speaking more about certain subjects since I have started speaking about it. And the reason I say that is it kind of makes it okay.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like someone has to, they might not always get the praise for it, but the person who started people thinking, you know, for example, when you get an idea, where do ideas come from? It's hard to always say where ideas come from. But sometimes ideas literally come from the fact that you've seen that idea before. You just forgot.
Yeah.
So like when people start speaking about things or having ideas to speak about certain subjects, you know, the actual seed that was planted, you know, when it comes to this stuff, I think, you know, I was definitely starting it from a young standpoint, certain issues, but now it's everywhere. And as you know, I've sent you a few videos that are like word for word replications. But it's the game, right? You know, it's the game.
But how do you overcome that, right? Because like overcome the caring about what other people might think, especially if you're the first person in a particular area, which can seem a little bit embarrassing if you aren't sure of yourself. Like, because you said, how do you overcome that and say, do you know what, forget it, I'm going to do it?
I think there's a few different answers, right, to that, right? And there's a few different, I guess, different answers is what helps, right? I'm not sure that everybody has self-confidence that's internal. Sometimes our self-confidence comes from like what we drive or how we dress or, you know, or people that we're around, which makes us less likely to act because we could change our perception and thus our confidence. Do you know what I mean? So I think if people understand where your confidence comes from, they find it easier to control you.
I see.
You know, that makes sense. If there's a quote, if you change what controls you, you can change what you can control. Because if I know your confidence comes from the fact that, oh no, you dress well or whatnot, every time I see you, I'll be like, yo, you're looking good, bro. You know, babe, we got rapport now. You know what I'm saying? You feel like you know me, stuff like that. Anywho, I think like most of these stuff should come from within, and that gives you the confidence to act on stuff irrespective of what people think. And that's how you become a little bit of a change maker. Some people are really like not pleasers, but you're influenced by being liked and stuff. And as I'd say, I 90% don't care.
90%.
Yeah, because I'm still human. There's a part of me that does, right? Even on a subconscious level, right? And obviously, I'm intellectual Paul with you here today, but tomorrow I could be, I don't know, go-to Paul who probably cares more.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Have you always been like that then?
What do you mean?
90% don't care.
Yeah, to some extent. Maybe waivers. I think it just improve. I think everybody gets better over years. So I wouldn't say like I've always been like that. I think I've mostly been like that.
Yeah.
Because I just know everything's fickle. Like I said, you know, I mean, friendship change, and I think people have. There's nothing that's happened to me from people that I know that I didn't think would happen. I don't know, I've told you I've been quiet. I've just been around people all my life, right? And I've been quiet, I've always observant. So you kind of sometimes meet people and know how this is going to end.
But don't you think that's quite a negative way to look at things?
Doesn't mean it's going to end negatively. I like to be surprised all the time. So basically, like, the point I'm trying to say is, remind me the original question, I'll form the conclusion.
So like, have you always been that way in terms of like 90% not caring about how people view you or think of you? And you said it comes in different waves.
Okay.
And then my next question would have been like, how do you improve from, say, going from like 70% to 90%?
Just the internal stuff. I think the best thing for self-confidence is spend a lot of time within, get to know yourself and be less led by the external. And then when you understand what your baseline is, then you can start doing external things to help the internal. Because it's all about like your self-image. So how do you improve your self-image irrespective of what the external factors are? Like questions you ask yourself, like, okay, you're good looking, and that's where your confidence comes from. But people have accidents every day. I knew a guy who had a car crash, had a long scar here. That some people end up getting depressed from that. Do you know what I'm saying? So like, what do you do? How could you basically build what you build irrespective of that? Well, some people have disfigurements and they're the most happy, jolly people, most confident people. It's just like, the mind is an interesting thing, and we should spend a lot more time in the mind, and that helps us understand who we are. And once you understand who we are, no one can really take that from you. You know what I mean? How did Mandela do 27 years in prison and just still become who he is? It's just, you can't take certain things from certain people because it's embedded in you. Because what you know to be true is what you know to be true, and what I know to be true is that I'm like the latest in the city. You know? Do you know what I mean?
So is something like that, like with that Mandela example,
Yeah.
is he born that way, or can someone become reflective in that way? So that person with, say, a disfigured face,
Yeah.
they've been through things which may have hardened them a little bit more. Like, I don't know. I guess my question is like, how, like, is there a way to get yourself more hard? Like, how do you spend more time within? Like, what does that look like?
What does it look like? There's a few different things, right? I guess the main thing is how you react to situations. So you're spending more time within, not just by being by yourself, but being in situations that make you uncomfortable and understanding why that made you uncomfortable. So you're questioning yourself with situations that you're in. So I think that for me, how my mind has sort of worked over the years is that anything that makes my heart beat fast and makes me nervous is what I have to do. So like I've been in positions where I've hated it. So for example, there was one time I was in a room, there's like 350 people in there plus, and the guy at the front was like, he was a news article person. He writes, what's they called? Journalist.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? At that point, you know, journalism is currency. And you get in the metro, your business is getting script. And I'm like, he was like, oh, if anybody wants to pitch their idea, just stand up, put your hand up and stand up. My heart was getting crazy. Do. Straight away. Do you know what I mean? I'm gonna put your hand up, figure it out later. Obviously, said a pitch. I can't remember it being good or not. We exchanged numbers. So I don't think anything came from it. But it's each time you do that, it's like a muscle. Like right now, like I can feel the anticipation of wanting to be the best I can be, but I don't feel nerves like that. Or anything enough to stop me from doing anything. Like I can speak. There's 1,000 people here today, I would speak. But I'm not naturally like that. It's those steps. Like I had a video recently where I was like, look, confidence is I guess feeling the fear and doing it anyway, and then understanding that it's never that deep.
Yeah.
Most of the time we think about stuff in our head, and I don't know if it's movies or whatnot, we always think about the worst case. And I was like, it's never as bad as in your head. Even one time I did a pitch, and it was like, there was a lot of people there, it was a terrible pitch. Fumbled the bag completely. I was like, it wasn't as bad as I thought. You know what I mean? I mean, it wasn't the best either. But that day I was like, look, I'm gonna do 10 pitches. I'm gonna do 10 speaking engagements after as a mental thing. It's like I told you I wanna be the best at anything I wanna do. So that's how you build confidence. You put yourself outside your comfort zone, understand how you felt, what you felt. Detach what your subconscious mind is telling you, or your fear-based mind, which is the fact that this could happen, that can happen, this could happen. Then you do it anyway, and then you can quieten that voice by knowing that the reality didn't match what that voice told you. That voice was there not to stop you, but to allow you or tell you to prepare more. I think that's a good answer.
That's an excellent scholar. Scholar Atote.
That should be the trailer. You know what I'm saying?
Smoky. Okay, no, I like that. The thing I like most about it is that it's very action based.
Yeah.
It's like, because everyone has those things that you're scared of, and I'm pretty sure you can find out those things that you don't want to do. You can find opportunities to kind of overtake them as well.
Yeah, you just have to do it, man.
Yeah.
I think everything I'm saying now, like I'm not coming to sound wishy-washy. Like everything I'm saying, I live.
Yeah.
As you know,
Yeah,
you know what I mean? And it's not the case that it's worked, like I'm some crazy guy, but I've done the impossible so many times that even to look back, I've just like consistently done the impossible, and I have to kind of think, how, you know?
Yeah.
It is some of these principles, right? I think my final ever book will be a book like, I don't know if anyone's read the book called Ray Dalio's Principles. Yeah, I'll write something like that, just like my dying wish to the world. I say, yo, here's what you can do to up your game differently.
Tell me some more principles of yours then.
Wisdom. I think the best thing we can do is just like study people. I think people, like you can't get where you want to get in life without people. No, nothing works in isolation. And people are less complicated than we think they are, because especially in like group settings, there's been so many studies on how people think, and it's good to be able to understand people, to whether it's like charisma, knowing how to talk to people, knowing how to build rapport. I think that's a major factor in life, and that comes from an element of confidence. So lack of confidence, in my opinion, is always wanting, one of the ways it manifests sometimes is wanting to speak more. So like people speak about airy fairy stuff. Like when I was younger and I had a particular perception with some people, they will meet me and tell me all the cruddy stuff they get up to. Yeah, man, did this, I did that. It's like, for one, I don't care. Two, I could be a fed. But, and also, I know that's a sign of insecurity, right? Whereas secure people want to speak less and listen more because it's not about them, it's about you. That makes sense?
Yep.
Yeah, there's a point in all of that, which means, I mean, just learn to be with people, come out of your own head. It's not about you. Probably no one's going to remember speaking to you. Speak to people, learn about their stories, ask questions, and stop being so self-centered. You know, that's why I don't do podcasts. Man. I've done a few, but yeah, it's like I don't. Yeah, the whole speaking stuff. Yeah.
I mean, you're a good speaker.
Oh.
Okay, cool. So then, because on that observing people, I remember that book you mentioned. What everybody is saying.
Yeah.
I need to read that. I tried to do the audio book, but it just didn't gravitate towards me. I think I need a physical book, but then maybe that's just me giving an excuse to myself.
Excuses.
Yeah. What's some of the top? What's something you read in that book that's actually helped you?
I don't think I learned anything particularly new in that book because something I was passionate about anyway, but it's like a reminder. And I think one thing, because as a time I was passionate about just spotting people lying.
Yeah.
And I think one of the things it tells you is that you can't actually spot people lying.
Oh, sir.
Yeah, you can't. You can just notice a change of behavior that might mean somebody's lying, but it doesn't necessarily mean. Like there's certain things people do, like, right, even in the office environment, like somebody could sit like how you're sitting, then you say something about a piece of work that they've done,
Yeah.
and they automatically close up.
Yeah.
What does that mean? Slightly defensive, you know what I mean? Or people are saying something that's a bit, you know, they're uncomfortable with, and they suddenly start doing this, and you know what I mean? People are saying yes with their head, their mouth, and saying no with their faces. But people don't notice the stuff unless you pay attention.
True.
And yeah, for some reason, maybe I tend to pay attention more. And I think it's just because I spent most of my life just being a bit quieter.
Fair.
Yeah.
And I've got a question about purpose. Yeah.
Yeah.
So do you have a general sense of what your purpose is?
I have a general sense of where I would likely end up.
Can you share it?
Nah. No, I'm good. Just know it's gonna be proper. But
Yeah.
where I likely end up, purpose. If maybe a year or two ago I would have said something elaborate. I think purpose somewhat changes. It's like a vision, right? It's like maybe 15-year vision, and as you evolve, that evolves with you. So you might have a new purpose based on everything you know up until this point.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I kind of feel I do have a purpose. I do feel like my mark will be something interesting, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah. How do you get closer towards it? Is it just by doing?
I think it goes back to that heart pumping element, right? Because like how the world works is, in my opinion, is made to take you away from where you're supposed to go, right? There's distraction, there's shiny trinkets, there's nerves, there's many things meant to take you away from where you're meant to go. And the way you're meant to go just feels a lot more nerve-wracking. So sometimes that's where you need to go. Like a friend of mine, like he went to uni at like 23 or 24, something like that. That must have been a very nerve-wracking experience.
Yeah.
Knowing that you're 6 years behind everybody, but because you felt away about it, you're not comfortable about it, that's what you're actually supposed to do, you know?
That's such an interesting way to put it, because when I think of how some other people might have spoken about like purpose, sometimes it can be easy, like the things that are easy to do are kind of meant for you, whereas what you're saying is like the things that feel the most challenging or give you that sense of like heartbeat, heart palpitations, that kind of, you're scared but you're going to do it anyway, that also could be leading you towards somewhere?
You think of when Martin Luther King started his march on Washington and all them people behind him, he was like, yeah, this is easy, it's where I'm meant to go. I don't think so. When he started speaking out there, you think that passion comes from that initial, you know, that's an element of nerves, right? Not nerves. There's a, like, it's a bit scary.
Yeah.
That's like, they say when things work is meant to flow, but doesn't mean it's easy on you. The door might be easy. Like everything I've been through and where I am now, it hasn't been challenging.
Yeah.
Like literally one door closes and door just opens. Like insanely. I can't put my words on it. But that wasn't easy. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It might have flown a bit easy, but it wasn't easy.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Like the actual what I had to do mentally and stuff like that. So
has there been one thing that's kind of shaped your mindset to what it is now?
it's a combination of different things, man.
How would you describe your mindset?
Que sera, sera.
I'm gonna say, what is it? Is that is what it is? Or it's life.
Whatever will be, will be. Yeah. Like you quite look. I feel stress sometimes.
Yeah.
Because of maybe the stress I put on myself, right? But maybe because of music, maybe. But I've always known that, listen, you focus on what you can control, and then that's it. If you can't control it, don't stress it. You focus on what you can. And I think that outlook has just saved me. Like, I don't worry like normal people do about things. I get conscious that, hey, this ain't clicking, but I don't worry like normal people do. And I don't understand why people worry about stuff they can't control. Like, it's not I don't understand, I get it. So like people create scenarios in their head. And I think, because I found myself in that trap once, not too long ago, maybe like this time last year, just thinking, hey, this could happen, that can happen, that can happen. I just had to, no, this ain't really me.
Yeah.
I'm not the one to be worrying and stuff. So I use that energy and I was like, you know, my key word is over preparation.
Yeah.
That the way to stop worrying is to over prepare. Worrying is an element of your body saying, you're waffling, you know, you're not ready. So what do you do to get ready? You just over prepare, and then you let, if you believe in God, you let God do the rest. Or, you know what I mean?
This is like another principle, mate. We need to get this principles with Paul Artante, bro.
£1,000, gosh.
So I've got a couple questions to wrap up. Yeah. One of your best productivity hacks.
Timer's good.
Yeah, well, like Pomodoro.
Yeah, that stuff is good. Focus.
What herb can you not live without?
Well, probably macaroo at this point, or tonkatali. I take that pretty much every day.
What piece of advice have you always given to people and still rings true?
Piece of advice, so do what you do and do it well. Jeez, that doesn't actually make any sense, but let's break it down. Yeah, you do what you do, as in like, so a friend of mine will come to me, hey, like I'm having X, Y, Z issues at work. What can you do? Do what you do, and then do it well.
One book that shaped your outlook on something?
One book, I think Think and Grow Rich, but I don't know if it's actually a good book or just the time that I read it.
Yeah. What was the time?
After my last exam at uni, I literally went to the library same day and started reading it.
Oh wow! Did someone just tell you to go read it?
I just knew it felt weird. Everyone was celebrating after the last exam. For me, I just felt like it's real now.
Yeah.
Like I need to get prepared. That's a true story. It's probably pretty sad when you deep it. Everyone was celebrating. You went to prom, remember?
Yeah.
I didn't go prom.
How come you didn't go prom?
I was reading the book. You know when you guys are doing suits and stuff? What was that? Yeah. I was in the library.
Damn.
Yeah. Things I've given up for these kids, and they don't want to subscribe to my YouTube channel. It's ridiculous.
And then lastly, if there was one message you would leave to people, what would it be?
One message I could leave to people is, you have less time than you think you have, and time flies.
Cool. Where can people find you, follow you? If they can, or anything that they should be aware of?
I'm on I'm pretty much private on all platforms now. But if you type in DUNGUBOOK, that's me.
Awesome. Paul, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me, sir.